Happy Thanksgiving, soulmates, and welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report. This is the space where we bring you Black America's headline news, views, and opinions. I'm Romeo.
Hey there, I'm Brooke.
Merry Thanksgiving. I'm here.
All right, coming up on today's report, we're talking unemployment numbers. Also, Target is making a decision that really is focused on family. And find out what a Baltimore bank is doing to help feed residents of the city.
Plus, we finally have someone to blame for the opioid epidemic. And guess who Jeff Bezos is making a generous donation to?
We have all that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth. So let's get it.
We've got some interesting news that should make many people happy about the future of our economy. Jobless claims have reached a 50-year low. Let's break down what we've been dealing with, okay? The pandemic saw jobless claims skyrocket. Many jobs were no longer even in existence due to the in-person nature of those jobs. Not only that, the financial ramifications of the pandemic on so many companies. 700,000 new jobless claims were filed at this time last year. President Biden, though, celebrating what he's calling a historic economic progress, an example of historic economic progress, saying, though, it is the horrifying statistic that we've seen has been dampened. Unemployment, here's the thing, still higher than before the pandemic. You know, I saw a reaction to this news today, and someone said elections matter. And this, for them, was their example of what they feel like the president that they voted for did for this economy, and saying that they felt like things would be worse had President Biden not won. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting way to look at this. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'll put it like this. This is great news, right? And going into the end of 2021 as we head into 2022, we talked about a lot of things that the Biden administration didn't get done. Now we're hearing stories about him possibly doing something with the gas prices, what could happen in weeks, maybe months to come. This is good for him. It's good for the Democratic Party because it's showing, okay, we're trying to get things back on track. So I take it as a positive story, definitely, to give our listeners.
I mean, you know, unemployment is down, but prices are rising everywhere you look around. So, I mean, there's still something happening, you know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, to where, you know, grocery prices are extremely high. Gas prices are extremely high. It's called inflation. And, you know, this is good news, but we're still battling having to pay all of these high prices on necessities that we need. So I find it a little troubling.
Yeah. And I just want to say, you know, claims fell 71,000 from the week before. These are new numbers just in this week. We're talking about the lowest level in decades, the lowest level of jobless claims in decades. And again, what we always have to go back to is the fact that one person, two people, 100,000 people, although 100,000 people sounds much better than 500,000 people.
True.
Not to that 100,000 people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's a big conversation about a worker shortage, but, you know, those workers are saying, no, there's a money shortage. There's a payment shortage. And so it's been interesting, especially when we talk about restaurants, right? You talk to a manager and they're like, hey, we can't keep people in here. We're struggling, you know, we're having to cut hours. We're having to cut, you know, options for our customers because we can't keep people in here. And then you've got, you know, some former waiters and servers, and they're saying, I can't live off of $2 an hour in some areas. And so it's been an interesting battle, and I think we are looking at things differently. And we are also in a space where employees have the power right now. And I'm going back to the restaurant example. The pandemic has it forced people, right, especially at restaurants, it forced people into this space where they had to figure it out. The internet has also brought in so many more opportunities. People are so creative these days, but people have had to figure it out. They've been forced to figure it out in a way that you don't often have when you have a full-time job, right? You know what I mean? You're not in that space where you have to figure it out. And so people had to figure it out. They figured it out, and they're not going back to a lot of those restaurant jobs.
Yeah. Right. And I think, too, what's also important to look at, you know, these numbers are great, but we have an unhoused homeless crisis in this country. So I wish that the Biden administration would put a little more emphasis on that. And like even looking at the state of California, you know, unemployment is down, but we have a epidemic happening right here in the city of Los Angeles. And I just find it interesting that California can tote having a surplus, you know, but we can't fix the homeless crisis. And so, you know, you hear these things, okay, numbers are down, but this country has some serious issues. And today being Thanksgiving, you know, we should really think about those individuals who are struggling today, just to put a turkey on the table, who don't have a meal at all to eat today.
Yeah, and sometimes they're forced to make a choice with rent prices steady going up, homes very expensive here in California and across the country. I would say this, like I said, in some ways this is a positive story, but still a long way to go for us.
So Target is the first major retailer to make such a permanent move during the pandemic, and its decision could push other retailers to follow in its path, says the president of retail research firm. So basically what happened is Target is going to permanently close on Thanksgiving. This was a trend that started last year with a lot of stores. And so now basically, you know, Target is saying, hey, we're going to show our employees some love and let them spend the holidays with their family. It should be interested to see how this will impact themselves, or people, you know, will just shop online.
I think a lot of people definitely still want to get out there and shop. Let's think about here in Los Angeles, Citadel outlets. They're talking about opening up 8 p.m. tonight until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So some people may get a little restless on the couch after watching some football, enjoying your time with their family, and they may want to go out. But this is a good move for them, and we'll see if other people catch on. Like if the Kohl's or the Best Buys, you'll be like, we want to hop on board with this as well and do the same thing. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen with that, because during the pandemic, they didn't really have a choice.
And, you know, that's the thing. You know, people who work at those jobs, they typically don't have the option. They're always working. And, you know, we're in this space to where I think, especially like during the pandemic, you realize what matters.
Right.
And also, from a corporation standpoint, the truth is the company realized that they could make it up on Wednesday and Friday and be just fine. And so in the end of it, you know, people who work there, because it's not as simple as saying, well, don't take the shift. That's not how it works when you're making minimum wage. Even though Target's minimum wage is a little bit higher than your average, that's not how it works. And so the company closing means everybody, no matter how much money they make in that company, except for there are some aspects of the company that are going to stay open. Retail stores are closed, but they can be at home with their families.
Right.
And it matters. Like, your mental health matters. Your emotions, it matters. We are all living through the plague.
Yeah.
You know, I'm being dramatic, but we are still living through a pandemic, which is affecting people in many different ways. And so your mental health matters. And the ability to just have a day at home with your family, a day at home to rest, that's important.
Yeah, right. I think what they should really do is, instead of having Cyber Monday, have Cyber Thanksgiving. And let people shop online so that people can be with their families. And then whatever you want to do on Friday and Monday, you can do it. But they just need to flip everything to online on Thanksgiving Day and let people shop on their computers.
Warm up your food, watch the football game, shop online. But I will do this. I applaud Target because they really stepped up during the pandemic. Think about the hours those workers had to put in during that time, what they had to go through when customers didn't want to wear a mask or didn't want to leave the store because of that. So you're right when you say, Brooke, that they need that break just for mental reasons only. You deserve a day off. But at the end of the day, if you love Target, aka Target, you will wait for it to open before you go get yours.
Right.
All right, last year saw a dramatic increase in food insecurity in Maryland because of the pandemic. This year is better, but still far from hunger free. Even in one of the wealthiest states in the nation, there is a cause for concern. Not so much that Maryland will be denied a holiday feast on the fourth Thursday of the month, but that there will remain a struggle to put food on plates in the months ahead as poverty and anticipated drop in donations, inflation, supply chain issues, and maybe a bit of volunteer burnout loom in the year ahead. At the Maryland Food Bank, President and CEO Carmel Del Guercio is impressed at what has been accomplished over the past year, but worries about the challenges still to come in 2021. It is estimated that about 2 million people in Maryland lack reliable access to food. And when we talk about homeless across the country, it's 1 in 4. When we talk about Black Americans in the country, we're talking 24%. That's the highest. That's almost like 3 times higher as white Americans that go through that. So resources are so necessary. When you think about people to go out there and do the turkey giveaways or the drives to feed certain families, how important that is. From celebrities to local officials to just people, everyday people want to give back. So yeah, the challenges are definitely ahead, but we're hoping that people can, get a meal today.
Yeah, you know, the fact is that people are having to get creative. If you want to help, you're having to get creative because things are hard. Things are hard. More people are struggling than you know. You know, the latest USDA report shows, you know, how many families are dealing with food insecurity. And food insecurity is essentially you not knowing where your next meal is coming from.
Yeah.
Black families with children are suffering at a disproportionate rate. I had a story this week. At the end of last week on my other show, my morning show, Good Day LA, and we talked about a woman who, you know, she has a company, and what they are doing are trying to fight childhood hunger, and this is her creativity. She went into a school in Atlanta with rapper Gunna. He helped sponsor it. She's looking to move into LA, calling out Snoop and other rappers here in LA, hoping to move into a school in South LA, but essentially went into a school and opened up a grocery store. No questions asked, because the fact is, even in this instance, people don't realize how many children rely on school breakfast, school lunch, and that's the only time they eat. During the pandemic, things were horrific because they lost that opportunity. You know what I mean? If you're lucky enough to have internet and have a computer, you're still getting school, but you may be struggling to eat. And then on top of that, a lot of parents go without even more because they're doing their best to try and make sure their kids eat as much as possible. Excuse me. So this store, every kid at the school, this is what I loved about this. Every kid at the school gets a tote bag. And so the tote bag, every kid carries it every day. So no matter what, you don't know every day what's in that tote bag. It could be groceries, it could be school supplies, right? It could be your daily school supplies because everybody has one. So one, that takes away the shame and the stigma of being one of those kids, if that, you know what I mean? And then you go in the store, no questions asked. No questions asked at all. Everything is free. Not only do they have food in there, but she said, you know, we have shelf-stable food. We have things like Hot Pockets because a lot of the kids are latchkey kids. They're kids who are taking care of younger siblings and they're having to make snacks and make food. They have vegetables. They have vegan options. They have healthy options. They also have toiletries, dishwashing liquid. They have dish soap. They have toilet paper. Foot Locker joined in the cause, donating backpacks and sweatshirts and shoes. And all of this is so parents and kids can try their best to move through this world in a way that has gotten harder.
Definitely.
So we know there are a couple articles that came out that food banks across the country are struggling for lack of higher prices. Like the story said, the grocery stores aren't providing the resources that they used to. And then, you know, we have this shipping problem that are happening at the ports, like right here in California, Los Angeles, the San Pedro ports. Stuff is just piling up. And so what's happening is we're seeing the consequences of a pandemic that, you know, we're still going through. And these food banks are really important, to your point that you, Brooke and Romeo, talked about. You know, families need these resources and they depend on them. And the food banks just don't have the resources of food that they used to have. So it is a problem. And so when we look at, you know, the government toting all of these surpluses, and we have the infrastructure bill, when we're passing Build Back America, the issue is Americans are struggling. And on a day like Thanksgiving, you know, there are a lot of people who don't have many things to be thankful for because the smaller people, the what did they call us? Main Street? Main Street is the one that suffers the most, and they're the ones that need these resources. So I hope that California, the state of California, we have a surplus, that we begin to address all of these issues that we're talking about to help the common man, because that's the person who needs it the most.
Definitely.
A federal jury found 3 of the nation's biggest pharmacy chains, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart, liable for helping fuel the U.S. opioid crisis. So this decision, you know, many experts say it's expected to have legal repercussions as thousands of similar lawsuits are moving forward in courts across the country. Jurors here concluded the pharmacies contributed to a so-called public nuisance in Lake and Turnbull counties in Ohio by selling and dispensing huge quantities of prescription pain pills. The fact is here, we're looking at things differently. And, you know, the big discussion right now is, how much did drug manufacturers know from the very beginning? How much did doctors know? How much did, you know, pharmacy corporations know? How much did the federal government know? And depending on the answers to that question, did people have to suffer the way they did for so long?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, to your answer to your question is yes. I believe that they knew. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about systemic racism and how pharmaceutical companies get away with crap like this. You know, when you have black and brown people, I say it all the time, that are incarcerated for, you know, crack cocaine. You know, there are black and brown people who are incarcerated for marijuana, and marijuana is legal in over 19 states in this country. So this is where we really need to have some type of checks and balances, because like I say, I think some of these people should go to jail. You know, Johnson & Johnson, they got out of paying their lawsuit. There was a judge. I would like to know who this judge knew, you know, and they were able to not have to pay the millions of dollars that the court originally said that they should. So they got away with it. Nobody went to jail, but yet black and brown people are locked up for smaller drug situations, and it's just unfair. And this is what systemic racism looks like.
Right. And you know, in your story, you talk about pharmacies being on notice, like the CVS and things of that nature. Where are they getting it from? Like, someone has to provide them that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's when it comes back to you, Neil. Who is the real person that's like looking the other way and continue to give this to those pharmacies or making it available? Because that's the problem. How do we get to them and take down the main source at the end of the day? Yeah. All right, soulmates, we hope you're enjoying your Thanksgiving Day. Maybe you're about to have that first meal. I don't know, but coming up, a Thomas Jefferson statue has been removed, and we're going to tell you all about it right here on Fox Soul's Black Report.